Good morning. May you live in interesting times. A lot of us know that as a Chinese curse. I don't know if it's a Chinese curse or not. But I do know that several years ago, a friend of mine explained to me the rest of the curse. Oh yeah, may you live in interesting times is only a third of the whole curse. The rest of it goes like this. May you live in interesting times. May you be noticed by powerful people. And may you get what you ask for. And, it's one of those passive-aggressive things that should send a little shiver down your back when someone says it to you. Got a cat in the screen. That's okay. So the reason I'm talking today is the topic is when survivalists became preppers. And the timing is to coincide with yesterday being the 16th anniversary of the landfall of Hurricane Katrina and the disasters that followed, the loss of life, the horrific conditions that took place down there. That event was one of those where people who were directly affected by it, as well as people around the country who watched it happen on their TV screens, they were one kind of person before that event and another kind of person after. For me, my event was 9/11, which is coming up in a week and a half. And for a lot of people who saw what happened and what followed in Hurricane Katrina, there were some results of that, some conclusions that were drawn that were different from the way people thought before. Beforehand, I think a lot of people were of the mind that, when there's a disaster, when something bad happens, I just pick up the phone, dial 911, and within minutes, somebody is going to come and make things all better again. And if it's a large-scale disaster, the government is going to come, they're going to set up tents, they're going to get us fresh water, they're going to give us a nice place to sleep, and it's all good. And that's what I pay my taxes for, so I don't have to really do anything more than just pay my taxes and trust the government. Well, that all changed after Katrina. Now, survivalists, and this was a term that you heard about in the 70s and 80s, going into the 90s. These were people who were portrayed with some validity, but I think also inaccurately toward a lot of these people that would fall under that category. These are the ones running through the woods in Army surplus camis, shooting guns, waiting for the Ruskies to come over the hill, right? But there were also people who were into disaster preparedness before it was cool, when they were kind of a fringe element, and it's become much more mainstream now. I'm not talking about running through the woods in camis. I'm talking about setting aside extra food, extra medicine, having a backup means of power, having a backup way of obtaining water. That has become much more mainstream, and what started that process of turning people who were known as survivalists into people who are now known as preppers was Hurricane Katrina. So it was a life-changing moment for a lot of folks. We learned, first of all, that the government may not come immediately to your aid, and when they do arrive, and I'm a former first responder, right? I love first responders, police, fire, EMS, love our military. But when they show up to help you, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. That's the old Reagan line. It may not be in ways that you want to be helped. It may be in ways where they say, well, you can't stay here. You have to go to this shelter. And in this case, in Katrina's case, there were shelters. The most horrific of those was the Superdome. Thousands and thousands of people packed into this big football stadium. Within a day, the toilets were backed up. all the toilets were backed up. Within a very short amount of time, the smell became horrendous. The water coming out of the faucets was bad. And when people tried to leave, in a lot of cases, they weren't allowed to leave. Once they were in, they were locked in. They weren't allowed. There were National Guard people at the entrances keeping people from leaving. So what was the lesson from that? Don't go to the Superdome. Old people were sweltering in the heat. I don't do heat well. I'm Northern European. I can always put more clothes on. I'm fine with cold weather, not so much with the hot weather. But I can't imagine what it would be like sweltering in that pit of that was the Superdome. So people learned, gosh, if I don't want to go to the Superdome, then I better have another place to go. And I better know when the time comes to leave. And there was a lot of footage during that time of people, sitting in cars, all 6 lanes of traffic at a standstill for hours and hours and hours because of traffic being backed up, because people who waited too long to get the hell out of Dodge. So having a bug out plan. Bug out was a term that most people didn't know or use during that time. Now a lot of people have their own bug out bags. They got bug out bags for themselves, their kids, their pets, and having a place to go. In my case, I didn't have a bug out bag when I was a police officer. I had a go bag that I kept in my cubby down in the basement of the police department where, if I had a SWAT call or something, the stuff I needed, including water and a couple of items of food, I could just grab it and go and jump on the van and go where I needed to go. But out of that came something that would apply to the world outside of police work. And so I was one of the people who started putting together a bug out bag. And I've probably put together about 6 incarnations of what I consider to be a good bug out bag. Now I have 2. I have one that I keep in my truck when I'm local. So if I'm less than an hour's walk, if for some reason I have to walk home, that bag will keep me healthy and able to arrive safely. And then I have another one that's a 5-day bag. So if I'm further away, I can live out of that bag for longer periods of time to get home. My bags are get home bags, not bug out bags. People say, oh, you always need to have a plan someplace to go. Well, this is my Alamo where I'm sitting right now. This is where I am going to be making every effort to go. Doctor gave me a checkup last time. He said, do you feel safe in your house? I said, heck yes, I feel safe in my house. That's the safest place. All my stuff is there. So, having that plan, setting aside a little extra cash, setting aside a little extra food. It's not hoarding when what you're getting is readily available. I just had a friend hook me up with a 50-pound bag of oatmeal. That's about a year's worth of oatmeal, a year's worth of breakfast for my wife and I. Where did I get that? Was there a secret plant? No, there's an Amish place outside of town that sells this stuff. And so my breakfast for the next year is covered if I need to. I still like my bacon and eggs, but bacon and eggs don't keep as well. But having that stuff set aside, being prepared. I don't know where the country's going. I don't like what I'm seeing. I pay more attention to it than I probably should. I don't have a lot of control over what's happening with Afghanistan, with a lot of the mandates and things that are coming down over COVID elsewhere in the country. What I do control is what I can see from my home and maybe extending out a few miles towards my town. But the further away I get from home, the less control over what happens there I have. So I work on controlling and beefing up what I have, where I'm at, with what I've got. And every day I try and move the ball forward to make myself a little healthier, to make my home a little more secure, to make myself more capable of living independently of outside help for long times if I needed to. All right. The average American, they say, has 3 days worth of food in their refrigerator. What happens after that? Well, what happens next is you don't want to be in Walmart when people are cleaning out the last of the groceries. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, says you should have 2 weeks worth of food stacked up in your house. All right. So if you've got 2 weeks worth of food, you are ahead of the average American. They say you should keep a bug out bag. I don't know if they use that term. With 72 hours worth of the things that you need in case you have to grab it and go. Keep it in your vehicle, keep it in the closet so you can grab it as you go out the door. That's Department of Homeland Security. Once you start getting up into a month's worth of material, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, now you're getting into that area where when people are fighting over the last roll of toilet paper or the last can of soup, you're not there. Because you've got soup and toilet paper already, and you can take care of you and yours. That's what I recommend that we do. There's going to be a meeting on tomorrow night at for those of you that are in the immediate vicinity here at Steve's Pizza upstairs. There's no charge, but it's a meet and greet of people who don't need to be convinced that they should prepare for emergencies, but they want to meet other people. Lone wolves typically do not survive for long. Every wolf has its pack. Every person who survives has a tribe of folks, like-minded, whose skills complement each other, right? Who can show up at your door on short notice, ready to help, regardless of what the emergency is. I talked about that a little bit in the last video. But be that person. If you want to show up, it starts at 6:30, goes till 8:30. Steve's is letting us use the meeting room for free. So I strongly recommend that you order some food or drinks or something while you're there. But it's a chance. I'm going to talk for under 15 minutes just to introduce the thing. And then I'm turning it over to a friend of mine who's an EMT firefighter. He and another guy are going to demonstrate how to stage and apply a combat application or CAT tourniquet. Just one tool in a well-stocked first aid toolbox. And then we're going to open it up. The rest of the remaining hour and a half is going to be spent giving the people there a chance to go and shake hands and meet people and, find out who has complementary skills with each other and maybe set up future meetings between these 2 or 3 people that each one meets while they're there to help people become more secure. Are we there to replace emergency services? Absolutely not. We are there to make sure that we are rescuable and not recoverable when emergency services show up. All right, we're just building an extension onto smoke alarms and fire extinguishers in your house. Is that supposed to be in place of the fire department? No, it's to keep you and as much of your property safe, or at least contained until the fire trucks show up. Right? I've got a trauma kit hanging in the closet on the other side of that wall. Is it to replace EMS? No, of course not. Those things are traveling emergency rooms now, your average ambulance. They're much bigger than when I ran with local EMS. I want them there, but I also want to do what I can to make their jobs easier when they show up with their specialized training and equipment. So I know basic first aid, maybe a little advanced first aid. I have equipment to be able to do that. I'm armed and trained to use a firearm and other means of self-defense, not to replace the police. I want my deputy buddies to show up, definitely. But I also know that if there's other stuff going on in the county, even under the best of conditions, they're going to roll into my driveway in 15 minutes. So that 15 minutes, or the rest of my life, is mine to manage until they show up. So that's what I recommend. I went past 10 minutes. I wanted to make this another 10-minute video. Sorry about that. But think about what I said, because we, my friends, men and women out there, are living in interesting times. That curse is in play right now. So do what you need to do to make yourself sufficient, self-sufficient. Take care, stay safe, stay vigilant. I'll see you next time.